Let us enter into this time of worship and celebration. In the safety of this sacred place, we are invited into a time of gratitude, reflection, renewal, and hope. Come in, bringing all of who you are. Calm your hurried pace. For this hour, let the cares, the fretfulness, and worry be set aside. Know that you are not alone. There is strength and caring support for you here. Let us quietly reflect on these words. Good morning, everyone. Let me welcome one and all to this time together when we celebrate Transfiguration Sunday. There are some announcements in the bulletin, and I would remind you to please read these over. I understand that Bonnie would like to come to the front, and she has an announcement regarding Can Share. Bonnie?
I delivered the Can Share to the university, and I wanted to tell you that the lady from their pantry wanted to say thank you to everybody from Westminster and for their generous donation. She said that really helps the students. So I just wanted to convey her thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. And a reminder that this month's Can Share will be donated to the Windsor Youth Center. Are there any further announcements? Well, we have a birthday this morning, Tristan Jameson. So let's join together in wishing Tristan a very, very happy birthday. Very, very happy birthday, Tristan. And now we will go from celebration of birthdays to something more serious. I speak, of course, of the recent Russian invasion of the Ukraine. I would invite you who are able to please stand for a moment's silence, which I'll follow with a brief prayer, and then Brian and Michael will lead us in singing, "Let There Be Peace." Let us pray silently for the people of the Ukraine. All these things we pray in the name of Jesus, the Prince of Peace. And I would urge you to please continue to pray for peace throughout this week and to pray for the people of the Ukraine. Please be seated. Let me thank everyone who has agreed to participate in this morning's service, to Michael and to Brian. Many thanks for your many gifts of music, to Wilma, who will be doing the singing bowl as usual, to Jim Kennedy, our reader this morning, and to Norm and Jeannie for their audiovisual areas of responsibility, and to Rose Barkhouse, who prepares the Sunday morning bulletin. Let us now take a moment to acknowledge the territory of our Indigenous friends. Westminster United Church sits on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, which includes the Ojibwa, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. We respect the long-standing relationships with First Nations people in this place, in the 100-mile Windsor, Essex Peninsula, and the Straits, Les Détroits of Detroit. In the darkest valley, in the hard work of life, at moments of ease, in our day-to-day reality, at times set aside, like this time now, for listening, for paying attention, for singing and praying, for the banquet table now prepared, for our communion sacramentum with every step we take. Goodness and mercy follow us. Our cup overflows. Let us come together in prayer. God, source of life and grace, in love the doors have been opened wide, and at this sacred time we have been welcomed into the presence of the holy, saints and sinners alike. A table has been spread before us, filled with the richest fare, a feast of food and drink, love and compassion, hope and justice. We have come with joy to this sacred place to worship and celebrate, to gather round the banquet table, to eat and drink, to taste and see goodness and grace in our lives, in this community of faith, and all around the world. Let us take a few moments to reflect on these words. Each day, may we be transformed so that we may become more human and a blessing to all creation. Amen. Please join with me in the responsive reading of the Affirmation and Celebration of Faith. It was written by Rebecca Edmonston Lange, and the title of it is Light of the World. Our Christian tradition says that Jesus is the light of the world.
And Jesus taught us that we can all be the light of the world if we seek to act in ways that enlarge the realms of love and justice.
When we share another's pain or offer a comforting ear to a friend in need,
we are the light of the world.
When we give bread to the hungry or support ways to house the homeless,
we are the light of the world.
When we fight temptations to wrongdoing within ourselves and treat our neighbors with respect,
we are the light of the world.
When we try to overcome differences with understanding and solve conflict with peaceful means,
we are the light of the world.
When we look to the good in other people and in ourselves,
we are the light of the world.
When we do not stay quiet in the face of prejudice, but speak our minds firmly and gently,
we are the light of the world.
When we fight fear and despair within ourselves and side with faith and hope,
we are the light of the world.
When we use our powers justly and in the service of love for humanity,
we are the light of the world.
So may it be. Amen.
Good morning. Our first reading today from the Hebrew Scriptures is from Exodus chapter 34, verses 29 to 35. Moses came down from Mount Sinai. As he came down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the covenant in his hand, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because he had been talking with God. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, the skin of his face was shining, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses spoke with them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near, and he gave them in commandment all that God had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. When Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But whenever Moses went in before God to speak, he would take the veil off until he came out. And when he came out and told the Israelites what God had commanded, the Israelites would see the face of Moses, that the skin of his face was shining, and Moses would put the veil on his face again until he went in to speak with God. Our gospel reading this morning is from Luke chapter 9. Verses 28 to 36. Jesus happened to take Peter and John and James along with him and climbed up the mountain to pray. And it so happened, as he was praying, that his face took on a strange appearance, and his clothing turned dazzling white. The next thing you know, two figures were talking with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and were discussing his departure, which he was destined to carry out in Jerusalem. Now Peter and those with him were half asleep at the time, but they came wide awake when they saw his glory and the two men standing next to him. And it so happened, as the men were leaving him, that Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it's a good thing we're here. In fact, why not set up 3 tents? One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He didn't know what he was saying. While he was still speaking, a cloud moved in and cast a shadow over them, and their fear increased as they entered the cloud. And out of the cloud a voice spoke, "This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was perceived to be alone, and they were speechless and told no one back then anything of what they had seen. And our contemporary reading is Taking Stock, a reflection by Dennis McCarty. To every one of us, there comes those times we need to clean the disheveled closets, otherwise known as our lives. Pull out the old anxieties, antagonisms, disappointments, and if we don't completely throw them in the trash, at least re-examine them, restock, restore, so they are no longer in the way of all those items we can actually put to use. Those most beloved to us, loved ones, gifts we find most joy in sharing, little bits of wisdom, we must surely have acquired along the way. Store those in front. There's only so much shelf space. Let us not waste it with the worn-out refuse of our lives. Pull out those necessities proven useful, all the best we have to offer to ourselves and to the world.
Thank you, Jim. May the wisdom of these words enlighten us, inspire us, renew our hope, and restore our faith. Now let us enter into a few silent moments to center our hearts and our minds. And in this time of silent reflection and meditation, may our minds be open to new truth and our hearts receptive to love as we give thanks for this life we're blessed to share. In Jesus' name, amen. As I mentioned at the beginning of this morning's service, today is Transfiguration Sunday. And Transfiguration Sunday is the last day before Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Lent. To mark this occasion, Jim Kennedy read for us from the 9th chapter of Luke's Gospel, verses 28 to 36. And that's the story of Jesus and Peter and James and John going up to the top of a mountain. And there, the 3 disciples of Jesus see him transfigured in all of his splendor and all of his glory. And he does that as he chats with Moses and Elijah, 2 of ancient Israel's most prestigious, 2 of the greatest religious leaders of the time. Apparently, or at least according to the storyteller Luke, Moses and Elijah, though they lived thousands of years before, simply materialized from the distant past and shared some thoughts with Jesus about the upcoming climax to his ministry in Jerusalem. Well, what are we who are gathered here this morning, 21st century people, to make of what Jim read to us this morning from the 9th chapter of Luke's Gospel? To begin, let's face it, this is a really strange story. It has weird apparitions of long-dead people. Depending on which translation of it you read, there are strange lights. There's the amazing transformation of Jesus. It's a story about shining faces. It's a story about a talking cloud. It's a story about bewildered and confused disciples. Now, some of us who are concerned about the church might be secretly and silently wishing that your minister had just skipped over this story, that he had just left it out. After all, the fact is, in today's seemingly non-religious culture, many churches, including our own, are hardly filled to capacity Sunday after Sunday. And an account like this, with all those otherworldly elements, can hardly be seen as acceptable factual reporting of something that really happened. The truth is that churches in this country are losing members in droves, and the church is at one of its lowest ebbs in modern history. Part of that is because of the church's role in the residential schools over centuries. Part of it is the scandalous episodes of sexual assault of children by priests, along with its widespread worldwide, in fact, cover up by Roman Catholic bishops. So given all this negative stuff the church is facing, some of us here today may well wish that this story, which seems to be a fantasy story, which seems to be a story tailor-made for the derision of those who have become disillusioned of the church, those who have packed up and left the church. It may seem to some of us here this morning that it's just one more thing that adds to the jeering of those who are skeptical of religion in general and the history of Christianity in particular. We might even be quietly asking ourselves, if an unbelievable story like this one is spoken of publicly, is not just going to be one more reason that people are going to stay away from church. It's just not a believable or credible story in this day and age. So, bearing all these things in mind, I urge you who are gathered here, I urge all people of faith to remember that the gospel accounts are not, let me repeat, are not straightforward and objective reporting of facts like we've come to expect in today's news reporters and biographers and historians. Nor is this morning's gospel account of the mountaintop transfiguration or transformation of Jesus something that could have been photographed or videotaped. So as we contemplate Luke chapter 9, verses 28 to 36, we should recall the words of the biblical scholar and historian John Dominic Crossan. Crossan reminds us that the Gospels are parables. They are basically parables. Two kinds of parables. Parables told by Jesus and parables told about Jesus. Let me repeat that. The Gospels are basically parables. Parables told by Jesus and parables told about Jesus. And this morning's reading from the 9th chapter of Luke's Gospel falls into the second of those categories. To be clear, it's a parable about Jesus. It's a parable that should be taken seriously, but it should not be taken literally if we want to discover the truth and the real meaning behind this story. It should not be taken literally if we want to discover the truth that lies behind Luke's story of the transfiguration of Jesus on the mountaintop. We must never take it literally, which is to say we must not assume that these things really happened. You see, the storyteller Luke, like the writers Matthew and Mark, included this parable of Jesus' transfiguration not as an isolated, standalone parable, but they included as a tip-off to those reading their Gospels, as a tip-off to those listening to those Gospels, to you and to me gathered here this morning, as a tip-off that something has changed in Jesus' life and in Jesus' public ministry. To be more precise, this parable of the transfiguration of Jesus signals to us that things have dramatically changed, and henceforth Jesus is on a journey to Jerusalem. And his journey to Jerusalem is a story of his betrayal, his suffering, his death, and his resurrection. But that's not all. This parable of the mountaintop transfiguration is a metaphorical or symbolic invitation. It's an invitation to people of faith, to us gathered here this morning, to join Jesus on his 40-day journey that we in the church call the season of Lent. For it is in accepting that invitation and daring to take our Lenten journeys, our own Lenten journeys, that we symbolically and metaphorically join Jesus as he moves into the shadows of suffering and death. Things that would seem unthinkable, things that seem dangerous, disgraceful, things that seem to desecrate, things that seem to end in defeat, but in truth, things that are a dramatic venture of compassion and healing, a dramatic venture of hope and liberation. And we're given a cue in that story, and here's our cue. Taking our Lenten journey means listening to Jesus. Yes, listening to Jesus. Remember God's voice coming from the cloud in this morning's parable. This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him. Listen to him. These words are at the very core, the very center, the very heart of this parable. In a practical, down-to-earth sense, this means that we have to stop thinking that we already know who Jesus was. We have to stop thinking we already know what he stood for. We have to stop thinking that we already know where Jesus stood. It means we have to let go of our mistaken ideas about Jesus. We have to let go of the bad old platitudes. It means we have to banish meaningless religious cliches if we want to encounter the Spirit. In other words, we have to listen to what Jesus actually preached. We have to listen to what Jesus actually taught during his public ministry. It means we have to open our ears, that we have to lean in and discover what Jesus actually said. It also means we have to hang on to Jesus' words. We have to hang on to what he said and let them challenge us and shape us and break us down and build us up and heal us. That command from the cloud, listen to him, also means we pay attention. Pay attention. Not only do we listen, but we pay attention. And you know what? Most of us have a really hard time listening and paying attention. Why? Because we love the sound of our own voices. We prefer to listen to ourselves talk. We, all of us, myself included, love to jabber away sometimes about nothing. We'd rather do that than pay attention to someone else, let alone Jesus. It's amazing what you discover when you do some research for a sermon. I discovered this past week that the average person in his or her lifetime speaks 900 million words. 900 million words. Now multiply that by the number of people living in your house or in your family. Multiply that by the people in your workplace or in the marketplace, day in and day out. And multiply that again by the number of people in your social group or your community gatherings. Now, add to that all the words in newspapers and magazines, all the words spoken on TV and radio, and especially these days on social media. And it immediately becomes obvious that we're bombarded by millions upon millions of words that we ourselves speak, plus billions upon billions of words that we hear from other people. But here's something I want to share with you. Over the next 6 weeks of Lent and Holy Week, we'll be reading approximately 15,000 words from the Gospel according to Luke. Now, people have gone to the trouble of counting out how many of those words the Gospel writers report as having been spoken by Jesus himself. And it's about 11,000. And modern scholars have shown us, if we want to get right down to brass tacks, many of those words were put on the words of Jesus by the Gospel writers themselves. And so what we have to pay attention is to about 10% of what we read. So in this Lenten season, as we join Jesus in his journey from the mountaintop to the dry cinders of Ash Wednesday, as we journey with him to the Via Dolorosa, the way of sorrows, as we journey with him to the cross on Golgotha and the tomb, let's take a few moments. Take a few moments and get rid of all that noise. Set aside those millions and billions of words that we utter and listen to. And then remembering the voice from the cloud in this morning's gospel reading, "This is my son. Listen to him." Let us take those words seriously, and let us commit ourselves over Lent to listening and paying attention to those few powerful but important words Jesus spoke. And once we've listened, once we've paid attention, let us actively respond. These three things: listen, pay attention, and respond to the words of Jesus as you journey with him throughout the Lenten season and Holy Week, in one way or another, will transform your life. They will transform your life. I can guarantee it. Why? Because that is the promise of God. Let us pray. God of all transfigurations, God of all glowing faces, you have invited us to the mountain, invited us to glow in the bright light, dazzling white. We accept. Lead us on through the living Spirit of Jesus, our trusted companion and guide, and hear now our silent prayers. God of all transformations, we have come to this sacred place bringing our joys and concerns. So at this time, let us reflect on those joys and concerns that we have brought to Westminster with us. As one heart is lifted, may we share its celebration. As one heart is burdened, may we share the pain it knows. I invite you to please join with me as we pray together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I invite you now, in thankfulness for all we have received, to celebrate the generous sharing of our offerings. As I mentioned, each Sunday we do not pass the offering plate, but we invite you to, if you haven't already done so, please leave your offering in the offering plates at the back of the church and the usher's table. Or if you are attending Zoom Church, we urge you to mail in your offerings, or you can also donate via Canada Helps or signing up for PAR. If you wish to do the latter two, please get in touch with Jeannie Stocks or our treasurer, Fred Barkhouse. Let us pray our offertory prayers. On this day, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings to God. May the gifts and offerings received today bring hope and healing as God's love is shared in our community and around the world. Amen. Please be seated. I invite you to turn now in your bulletin to our celebration of the Sacrament of Communion. Welcome to this banqueting table. Enjoy the hospitality. Here we are reminded that all human beings are equal and all life forms are to be respected. We give thanks this day for the gifts of the earth, for its love and its creativity. We do so because the sacred earth and all that is in it gives witness to the Spirit of life. We give thanks for the life and public ministry of Jesus of Nazareth, prophet, poet, and sage, for the memory of his subversive proclamation of the commonwealth of God and his radical loving kindness. He taught that compassion is the heart of God, and he practiced equality in the simple act of table fellowship. When Jesus blessed the bread, he used the traditional Jewish prayer saying, "Blessed is the Holy One of Israel, sovereign of all that is, who brings forth the bread from the ground." And when he blessed the wine, he again used the traditional Jewish prayer saying, "Blessed is the Holy One of Israel, sovereign of all that is, who brings forth the grape from the vine." And here today we share in this act of friendship with millions of people all around the world and with all faithful people of the past. With them and in celebration of our Westminster faith community, we say gifts to share and sustaining memory bring people of hope together. The banquet's joy and celebration mark the presence of light. To gather around this table, to break bread freely and to share the cup openly is to bring justice to life. True acts of sharing help us to be like the human Jesus who taught, "Be compassionate as God is compassionate," and who said, "Give and there will be gifts given to you." We break the bread for our journey. Take now and eat. The wine poured out. Wine for our life. Take and drink. Hear these after Jesus' banquet reflections. As a community of faith, we have shared the bread and the cup, and in doing so, we have acknowledged our common humanity. May our commitment to peace bear witness to the heart of this faith community. And may we be a people who unite our words with our deeds. Amen. As we prepare to leave this place made sacred by our presence, let us remember that God is in the restless wind of love, sweeping over the world, blowing where it will blow, stirring hearts to change, making all things possible. And let us commit ourselves to a restless desire for change, even change that seems impossible. In the week that lies ahead, may the transforming power and goodness and love sweep through our lives and our world so that all may share in a harvest of blessings. Go now in peace. As you have been loved, love. As you have been welcomed, welcome. As you have been fed, feed. As you have received, give. And may the boundless presence of the Spirit of life and love be with you now and always. Amen. This is Reverend Del Stewart. I hope you enjoyed this audio presentation of today's time of worship and celebration. If you did, please click the like button. You can also click on subscribe to make it easier to find our channel, and click the bell to receive a notification each time a podcast becomes available. Peace and joy now from Westminster United Church in Windsor, Ontario.